what you're thinking, what is he on about now? He is expecting us to take this ridiculous box of a VW seriously. He's even about to call it a classic. He's mad. It's just a van, a wagon for weirdos, a lorry for loonies. Yes, I know all that. But I also know that there are 5 million of them out there. That every single modern people carrier was derived from one of these. That there's a huge cult following, and that mint ones fetch up to £10,000. Don't laugh, because what you're looking at is quite simply the most versatile vehicle in the world.
V-dubs, man.
You can go anywhere in them.
Sex on wheels, really.
The rust-free from Cali 60s trooper van. Come check it out.
Just fell in love with it at first sight.
They're cheap to run, they're cheap to maintain. They've been around for so many years.
It's just something that we got into and we can't get out of. You know?
At the end of the Second World War, the British Army found themselves with the ticklish task of running the captured Volkswagen factory in Wolfsburg. To ferry parts across the massive site, stripped-down VW Beetles were turned into little transporters. A good idea, thought Ben Pon, a Dutch Volkswagen importer who in 1947 sketched his idea of a Beetle-based van. 2 short years later, it was launched at the Geneva Motor Show as the modern equivalent of the ox and cart. They say that most good ideas are usually simple ones, and the one behind the VW bus is as pure as they come. It started life as a box on wheels, a very big box, mind you, 170 cubic foot in there, and enough room to hold a 15-hand horse. It was devastatingly simple, and VW in the next 5 years would turn out 90 different body combinations. It was the van for all reasons. There were refrigerated ice cream vans, half 100 different types of delivery van, everything from mobile milking machines to baker's bread vans. Not forgetting scores of milk floats, florist vans, motorised veterinary surgeries, drayman's beer wagons, butcher's shops and mobile grocers. Then there were the police paddy wagons, the fire engines, the ambulances, the pickups, and last but not least, there were the campers. The first big sales of campers happened in America in the mid-50s. The Holiday Inn hadn't been invented, and Eisenhower's new interstates stretched invitingly towards the horizon. With dinky sinks and cosy cookers, this was the perfect home from home for a generation of restless suburbanites. As VW's ads boasted, packs in just about everything, except the scenery.
I'm going up the country, baby, don't you wanna go? I'm going up the country, baby, don't you wanna go? I'm going to some place where I've never been before.
By 1963, America had bought 150,000 of VW's crazy carryalls. Non-conformist American man was long-haired, into good vibes, played the guitar a lot and drove a VW camper. It was the perfect car for anybody who hated cars.
I'm gonna leave the city, got to get away. I'm gonna leave the city, got to get away. All this fussing and fighting, man, you know I sure can't stay.
screens, or splitties, as van fans call them, had tiny Beetle engines and Beetle brakes. They were therefore very slow and disinclined to stop. Top speed was 50 miles an hour, and it took you an ice age to get there. But for all that, driving them isn't the nightmare that you'd think. You can't hurry, but you just sit here and enjoy the commanding view from this imperial driving position and look through 12 picture windows, 23 panes of glass if you had a Samba. I suppose you could sum the experience up by saying it's all about the journey rather than the destination.
There is a legend that they tell that when the sun goes down and the moon comes up, there is a car that turns into a house.
So, what is it that compels you to own something like this?
Well, I think it's very difficult to explain to anybody. I think the best thing is if you come inside and let me show you. You've got everything you could possibly want here. If we open that one, in there we've got the cereal bowls and the tea plates, all nicely tucked away. On this side of the door, we're able to put the bowl. We can use that for washing up, and we can also use it for washing in as well. The little cold box here, which is a water evaporation cold box. You put water in the top, and it actually keeps things very cool. Another interesting thing is the wardrobe that is here, and it's quite amazing how much stuff you can get into there of your clothes. Under here there is a 2-burner gas cooker with a grill, which is still the original one, still usable, still use it to do all the cooking on. Another interesting thing, I don't know whether you'll be able to see this, do you want to have a little look? Whether or not you'll be able to get to see it, I don't know. But quite a lot of storage under there. Can you see?
Oh, wonderful. Crisps, nuts, cornflakes, yeah.
Everything. And then when the bed goes back and it becomes our lounge again, the bedding all sits behind there.
So it is like a little house?
It is like a little house in miniature.
And the little house that VW built would go absolutely anywhere.
Back in 1968, I lived in Africa, in Kenya, with my mum and my father, my brother. And when they left Kenya, they decided to buy a camper and travel by road from Nairobi to Cape Town. We understand that it had already come from Cape Town.
From Cape Town.
It had already done 100,000 miles, plus we got it at 180,000 miles. By the time we'd travelled from Nairobi to Cape Town, we'd just done short of 6,000 miles by road. The roads and that we went on on some terrible roads, didn't we? Sometimes we did 100 miles in a day. That was as much as you could stand.
We used it for 12 months after we got back to England about. And the garage where we bought the new car, they gave us £100 for the old Volkswagen. And my son sat down and cried, "Mum, if I had £100, I would give it you. I don't want to part with it."
The Splitty went to that great big van fest in the sky in 1967 to be replaced by the bay window. Now, what the bay window lacked in personality, and don't forget it had lost that chummy, matey VW face, it made up for in refinement. It now had wind-up windows and a top speed of a dizzy 80 miles an hour. The bay window made the VW bus an astonishing success, and by 1975, the Hanover factory had rolled out 4 million. Not bad for something that started life as a box on wheels. Take a free ride, take my place, have my seat, it's for free. Gone was the puny 1200cc Beetle engine, replaced by a choice of 1600, 1700, 1800 or even 2 litre, plus the luxurious option of gears that change themselves. Volkswagen had been merrily giving away gold watches to any VW owner who managed to get past the magic 100,000 kilometre mark. But when the Bay appeared, things had got a lot more reliable, so they found they had to stop. after having given away 160,000 watches. Just as well, because this 74 bay has just passed 194,000 miles on its original engine. But it was the camper that really raised the roof, and by the mid-70s there were no less than 20 different conversions on the market. Everything from Dormobile to Westphalia.
Are you the people with the station wagon?
Tell them we're eating.
But we've come so far. That's it, dear. The Volkswagen station wagon. The one that holds about twice as much as the average station wagon. Thank you.
And the camper became de rigueur transport for every festival from Woodstock to the Isle of Wight and Glastonbury. Perhaps the only vehicle in the world to be warmly welcomed by people who wear open-toed sandals. For the Flower Children, it was a groovemobile. VW's box brought peace and love to all.
I nearly became a hippie, you know, first time round.
Really?
I played the Sgt. Pepper album backwards, and I could swear John Lennon was instructing me to resign from the Sea Scouts and burn me woggle. And the Beatles split up and all my hair fell out.
I blame Yoko Ono.
Nah, it was the bleach.
And 30 years on, it's still the perfect vehicle for the counterculture.
It's a way of life. It's an ex-gypsy caravan. I think that's how I see it. It's a modern gypsy caravan.
It's that kind of like United thing, like people that go to festivals and stuff. They're more friendly. People that tend to drive them know that you can't have such accelerated pace and stuff, so they lead an easier way of life. It's just cool. I mean, everybody that's here is cool. Laid back.
And every weekend, hundreds of campers decamp to VW raids all around the country.
But not everybody puts in little cookers and thermos flasks. This is £5 worth of rave chill-out camper with 1,000 watts, 450 from that speaker. Turn the music up, man.
A lot to it, and he's trying to keep them on the road. They're coming extinct, like, you know. That's
always need a lot of care as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't like leave them. You can't neglect them. You'll keep them up together.
It's like a home base, so you've got your own home and you have it decorated how you want, and I've got this decorated how I want.
With something like this, you've got to put your life into it.
It's a weird thing. You're driving around something older than ourselves, though. Yeah, it's 25 years. I'm 24. This was around before I was, and I've got to try and keep it around as long as I can, hopefully. Though.
There's nothing to worry about. There's no worries at all. Just park up and you're on holiday.
And if you fancy a spot of surfing, you must be careful to blend into the general ambience. A Ford Transit definitely wouldn't make many waves here.
It's practical, you can get your boards in the back, it's fairly cheap to run, it's just a thing. It's the only thing you can drive.
I think it's the sort of vehicle for living by the beach and carrying everything and, you know, getting down onto the beach and going surfing. You know, sleeping overnight and catching the early morning glass, as they say on Big Wednesday.
It's one of those things. I mean, especially in New Zealand, there's a lot of surf culture. Dabby-Doo is part of that culture.
He don't really like him, he just thinks he pulls a chick.
And he
well, yeah, the pulls a chick's really.
He comes into this country and all he brought us was crabs.
There's no surf down here, but down in Newquay and that, it's the best places to go for us, really. I mean, it'd be cool to go over to Europe and that, but it's whether or not to trust the things to make it there or not.
But many do, and most of those ageing campers carry nomadic Antipodeans round the world. They call it the VW Wanderlust.
Traveling in a fried-out combi on a hippie trailhead full of zombies. Do you come from a land down under? Where women go and men wonder.
And when the odyssey is over, the Aussies and Kiwis take them to a hallowed street in London and pass them on to other adventurers. When a camper's finished trekking, it just pauses for breath and does it all again. But what sort of people would want to buy a van that's already run several girdles round the globe?
We bought off a couple of Australians who'd been surfing in it, and so that's what we're hoping to do as well, moving on to other travellers.
Coming down here, there's much more of a communal spirit. Apart from your dealers can be a bit of a shark down here, but most people are pretty fair dinkum.
We paid 2,000, followed by about 3,000 in repairs 2 weeks later. The engine seized 2 weeks after we got it.
You know that the van's done a few kilometres, but people they're constantly doing work on it as they have problems, you know, and people talk about the problems they've had, and I don't know, you trust, I guess, you know, people that are doing the same experience that you are.
I don't know whether it's sort of a Woodstock thing, actually. I mean, as I say, it's normally most of the travellers who buy combis are very chilled out people. I mean, you really have a love for a combi because they're very old and you'll hear noises and you'll think, oh my goodness, this is it, you know, is she going to die? But it's a personality thing. And you always know if you see another combi person that they're going to be like you.
But in 1979, all that personality disappeared with the hard-edged wedge. The comfy little house now looked like a nasty modern bungalow. The proper camper is the camper that's unspoilt by progress. But perhaps the reason why this angular antique hasn't just survived, it's prospered, is that it isn't a car. It doesn't carry any of that silly emotional baggage about sexuality and image and performance and style. It's really whatever you want it to be. It's the only vehicle in the world that literally can be described as all things to all men. If only everything in life was as versatile as a Volkswagen.
New cruisers and family hatchbacks in Top Gear on Thursday night at 8:30 here on BBC Two.
No, I haven't actually done one of these before, but